Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming here and sparing your time this evening. It's very good of you to come out and listen to us. It's a very important moment in time for British politics. You've heard a little bit on the video. I've been a business person all of my life. I've done business on every continent. I've been involved in trade and international standards. So I sort of know when the CBI are fibbing. It's just over 3 years ago now that I stood down as Director General of the British Chambers of Commerce, and I stood down at the time because I was so appalled at the project fear that the government were running, fooling the British people, or trying to fool the British people. Of course, they didn't fool us, did they? Trying to fool the British people about what Brexit was all about. I could not stand it, that they were doing this. And of course, when I stood down, number 10 went absolutely insane. No doubt they're going insane again today. They went insane. I had telephone calls from number 10 with very, very strong language saying that I was doing entirely the wrong thing. And, you know, 3 years later, I still feel that I did entirely the right thing. But you know, it is 3 years, isn't it? Who would have thought that 3 years after voting to take back control of our laws, borders and money, that we would still be here today having to fight this thing? The first article I wrote after resigning was for the Evening Standard, and it was titled, "Is This the New Peasants' Revolt?" And by the way, I'm one of the peasants. But I said at the end of the article, beware, look what happened in the original Peasants' Revolt in medieval times. Look what happened to them. Beware, because the establishment are vicious in pursuit of their own vested interests. And so it has been, because the opponents of Brexit are people who have vested interests. This is not now just about Brexit. Brexit is the most important thing for our country. But it is not just about that. It is now about the democratic system and democracy in the UK, because the democratic system is being broken and the party system is being broken, and we have a huge opportunity with the Brexit Party to have a peaceful political revolution in the UK and actually move things forward in a way that will create a better future for our people. But I've also campaigned in the last 3 years because I actually believe that leaving the European Union will increase our prosperity. We will actually do much better as a nation. And I'll just give you a few brief examples of this. You know, the European Union forces us to charge taxes on anything that we import from outside the EU. They're called tariffs. And those tariffs are huge. You know, the one that always sticks in my mind is that we have to charge a tariff of 70% on imported canned peaches. Now, I mean, I'm old enough, I actually quite liked peach Melba. Not many people sort of eat this sort of thing nowadays, but 70% to protect Italian peach farmers. And that money goes to Brussels. Now, it's on the wholesale price, so 70% off the wholesale price would probably mean half the cost of canned peaches. But it applies to other things too. Footwear, trainers, which we don't produce in the UK anymore. Flat screen TVs, you charge 20% tariffs. So after you've taken off the wholesale retail difference, you probably end up with a 10% reduction in all of those goods. And it goes on. It's across the entire board of consumer goods. We would reduce the cost of living for ordinary families in the UK hugely just by making the tariffs on things that we do not produce in the UK zero. The French farmers wouldn't like it. German manufacturers wouldn't like it because they're protected by these tariffs. But it would actually put more money in your pockets. It would boost the economy because you'd have more to spend, and we would have a growth rate spurt. Don't let them fool you. We would be better off if we left the European Union just by the removal of tariffs. But look. And we can choose to do that ourselves. We don't need trade deals to do that. Trade deals would be great, but we can do that the day after. In fact, our wonderful Chancellor of the Exchequer, Philip Hammond, whom we all love, said himself only a few weeks ago, if, shock horror, we left the European Union with no deal, he would have to remove 87% of all the tariffs. It was a threat. He also said that you have to use the £12 billion a year that we have as a net contribution to the EU. This is the real figure, 12 billion, the stuff we don't get back. We'd have to use it to cut taxes on businesses and personal income tax. It was a threat. Well, I'd vote for that, wouldn't you? And the £39 billion that we're going to hand over to the European Union, I'd quite like to see that improving our roads and having better rail systems locally. Improving the A303 to the southwest, having a proper rail line from Liverpool to Hull. You know, those things would be marvellous, wouldn't they? And that was a threat. He thought that was a jolly bad thing. Cut taxes, cut tariffs, spend the money on infrastructure in the UK. Is he insane? That's what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen. And if we leave the European Union, which I'm determined to make sure that we do, that's the benefit that the UK will have amongst many others. And as I always say, you know, it'll be all right in the end, and if it's not all right, it's not yet the end. Thank you very much.
Right, so